the source of this is Nintendo Canada. So for all my Canadian brethren, though it's the return. We all know that Nintendo Power was shut down years ago. They stopped producing the great magazines that were Nintendo Power.
Yes.
But Nintendo Power is back, kind of.
For Daniel.
For for me specifically.
And Holly.
This hosted by Nintendo of America employees, but it's now returned as a podcast instead of a magazine.
Wait, it's hosted by Nintendo of America?
Or for people who work there. So Chris Slate, who is hosting, he's a former editor-in-chief of Nintendo Power. Okay, so these are people who... Oh! I haven't actually listened to it, but I read a bunch about it. Kit Ellis from Nintendo Minute.
Okay,
is in it.
See, the thing with the original Nintendo Power was it wasn't created... I could be wrong. Tell me in the chat, people watching the video.
Yes.
I think it was just... Like, it wasn't made by Nintendo, the magazine. Like there's PlayStation, or there was PlayStation Magazine, which I believe was ran by PlayStation. Game Informer, which is partnered with GameStop. They, I think it was last year, GameStop started publishing their own video games. Like certain indie games they would publish, but then they would also write about them in their magazine. So a lot of people was like, well, if they're selling this game, aren't they automatically going to talk good about it? So with the original, so with the original Nintendo Power, it wasn't ran by Nintendo. It was just approved and officially licensed or whatever by Nintendo, but it was like its own entity outside of Nintendo. It was basically Nintendo being like, oh, here's free publicity. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to pay anybody. All we have to do is send like a $50, $60 game for them to review, and we get automatic.
And maybe do some interviews and
So with that, they were free to say, oh, this game sucks. Like if Splatoon comes out and the person reviewing it was like, oh, this is a horrible game, or if it comes out and someone says this is an amazing game, you would know that, okay, they're not being biased because they're not being paid by Nintendo. But where this is people being paid by Nintendo, like Kit, who everyone's
Kit
favorite.
I love that guy and his hair.
Everyone's favorite Nintendo YouTube personality.
Yeah.
Like there is that doubt in the back of your mind now that it's like, well, this... Like, there's the possibility of them being biased since they are working for Nintendo, because it's like, if the next handheld Zelda game comes out and they're like, it's a 6 out of 10, which isn't necessarily saying it's bad, it's just saying, oh, this game's mediocre, it's average. Nintendo might be like, well, we were going to renew your contract next year, but now...
But now I'm not so sure.
So there's always that that pressure on fans to be like, are they saying what Nintendo's telling them to say? It's like, I think of it as in WWE, which I'm a fan of, they do the stupidest thing where they'll have like an interview segment to where it looks like when a politician or a basketball player, someone's being interviewed, and you see on the microphone how it has like ESPN, ABC, CNN, or whatever. But whenever WWE does it, there might be like one ESPN microphone there, but like the other 10 microphones are all like WWE. And it's like, why do you have like 8 of your own people? Like they do it to like whenever I guess kids are watching or whatever, because it's really big for kids. It makes them think that it's a big deal, but people like us that see through it, it's like, why are they having 10 people stand out and try to
they just really
interview?
Need that recording to go well.
Yeah, it's like
they're like, the more mics the better.
Yeah, so we're going to test out this person recording with their lavalier. We're gonna test out this person recording with their iPhone. This person's recording with their Galaxy smartphone. This person's recording with their shotgun microphone. This person's using an actual microphone you would want to use in an interview.
A shotgun would work pretty well.
No, it does, but I'm like, if you it works really good for like if you want it to be out of frame.
Yeah.
But
if you're holding it right up against the guy's face,
then
it's gonna sound pretty crackly, you know.
Yeah. So one of the things, one of the microphones that actually is one of my first microphones that I bought was the Shure SM57 microphone, and the reason I bought it was I was recording music at the time, but I wanted something that was kind of diverse, to where like you could record vocals or talking, interviews, as well as recording guitar and stuff like that. And I would watch a lot of my favorite bands, and whenever they would go and record, they would have that microphone up against the speaker to record their guitar. And then you would watch interviews with the president at the time, like Obama or whatever, and he would be using, like, there would be 2 or 3 of that same microphone on the thing. And in my head, I'm like, if it's good enough for the president, it's going to work for me. Like, they have the funds to pay like $50,000 for a microphone. If a microphone ever did cost $50,000, they would be able to afford it, or they would be able to get like 15 of them for free, because the people that make it would be like, oh, the president
wants a microphone? Sure, man.
Like, that's like, again, that goes back to free publicity. So in my head, I was like, Shure SM57, it's good enough for the president, it's good enough for me. So like, I would expect them to be using microphones like that. But then like, there's people that has their phone up to them and everything, and it's like all the same company, and I'm like, what is this? But anyways, getting off topic again, which I believe is the only reason people should watch this podcast, because there's like,
because of how much we get off topic.
On average, the news segments are like 30 minutes long. The news is about 2 minutes long, and then the rest of it is us talking. And I've seen the analytics.
That's the best part.
There are like 90% of people stay for at least most of the video. So there's not much dropout after we get finished with the news.
I worry how much of that is me reading the comments. Like, because I'll start watching, I'll just be reading the comments, and I'm like, oh, I read them all, and then I'll close it and move to the next one. And I don't need to watch it. I lived it, Jesse.
There's no comments from people that's like, oh, you two get off topic, or like make it more about the news. Like, there's no negative comments about that. It's always people like talking about whatever it is we're discussing. So that's really nice.
I mean, if that is a bad thing, you know, just please let us know. But until then, we're
Shut Up Link
probably gonna
in the chat says, I love this podcast, we need more of this on the net.
Oh, thank you, man.
RPG earlier says, I'm Canadian, ... Nintendo Power is back, but only in Canada, ? Yes.
Kinda.
So
I think you can still listen to the podcast anywhere. It's on the internet.
It's just based in Canada.
Or at least Nintendo Canada reported it. On Twitter.
So in the news segment,
I don't think these guys are Canadian that are hosting it. David Baker, Chris Slate, Kid Ellis, they're all...
They might as well be. They're living in Washington.
Actually, it's pretty... Or Washington State or City, you mean?
Yeah, like Redmond, Washington.
Oh, yeah, so, that's very close.
Yeah, that's like...
I'm like 2 hours from Seattle, Vancouver, so, I mean, it's... To give people who don't know Canadian geography very well, like, that's where... West Coast. that's where I'm at. But
if you think of Texas and the border of Mexico, that's where Nintendo's located, but for Canada. It's like literally as close as you can get to Canada without being in Canada. So that's where, if you want a job,
just close enough to check up on us.
if you want a job with Nintendo, you have to buy a few jackets and move to Redmond, Washington.
Buy a few jackets?
Yeah, because it's cold.
Oh, I don't have to buy a few jackets. I'm Canadian, man. It's colder here.
Yeah.
Actually, all the snow melted. It's really sad. Sometimes Vancouver sucks.
It's supposed to snow here tomorrow.
We had a bit of a snowfall, but it just doesn't, since Canada's the least snowy part, or Vancouver's the least snowy part of Canada.
So I just looked
it's
it
like
up.
Seattle. It rains a lot.
Nintendo of America, located 4600 150th Avenue, Northeast, Redmond, Washington. So if you guys, if you want to go knock on the door and tell Reggie what's up, that's where you need to go.
What up, Reggie?
Yeah. I've debated on moving there, because they were, like, they post listings for...
Then you can just drive up across the border.
Well, they always
come see me.
They always post listings for, like, people that are knowledgeable about Nintendo to be... like, obviously, I couldn't do anything like making a game or translating stuff. I have a friend who... I have a few friends that work there, but... like whenever Mike Drucker, who we're supposed to have on the podcast sometime, wrote some of the stuff for Skyward Sword, Mario Party, Kid Icarus, I actually had him on the channel a long time ago, but I had other friends who, like, when the Wii U first came out, they would be I don't know what their job is now, or even if they... I'm sure, like, they got put in another place, especially with how successful Nintendo is right now. I don't imagine they would have to fire anyone. They would just move them around. But I was friends with a few people who worked with Miiverse community. They were like Miiverse community managers, but now Miiverse doesn't really exist. So I'm kind of curious, like, what do they do now?
They probably got repurposed to something similar.
Yeah. I thought Miiverse was a good idea. Like,
I liked it, but I get it that
instead of having that Wara Wara Plaza, was that the name of it on the Wii U? When it first boots up, you see all the people standing there.
Yeah. It's so empty now. It's like when you log on there, it's like a void chasm of what was once Miiverse.
Yeah. Instead of that, if they would have had like the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, or the Nintendo Switches now, if they had that, and then like Wara Wara Plaza and Miiverse was all just an app, like you click it and then it goes in, I think it may have done a little bit better, instead of being like, it would have made it load a lot faster as well, for sure.
Yes,
I think a big
I love my Wii U. I still use it, but the load times are killer, especially compared to the Switch, which is like super fast.
And that's because
the Switch can load Breath of the Wild faster than the Wii U can load its own menu. Okay.
Yeah. And a big part of that is, like, on the Switch, when it loads up and first turns on, it's just loading the apps that you have. Like, it's basically just showing you the folders. Whereas on the Wii U, it's loading up all of the apps you have, but it's also loading up the Plaza thing. Like, it has to render out, load up all of the different little Miis.
Like a billion Miis just like running in circles.
Whatever games or communities are the most popular, and all of the other information that it has to take in. But yeah, with going back to Nintendo Power. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm excited. And
so they have one episode out, but there's a few key points that I wanted to talk about in that episode, because they debuted their podcast with an interview with some Breath of the Wild developers, including Aonuma and Fujibayashi. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I totally butchered it.
Fujibayashi.
Fujibayashi. So, and Aonuma, specifically.
Okay. Alright, so I'm going to cut this part out.
Fujibayashi. Yeah.
We are going from Nintendo Power to the interviews. You were supposed to pick out the 3 interviews, correct?
Yeah, I've got them here.
Okay, so this will be a different video. One will be about Nintendo Power, and then this one will be like going over the information from the interviews.
Yeah.
So start this as if it was...
It's kind of one piece of news, because these interviews are from the podcast. So there's my segue.
All right, go.
Okay.
Because like the way I was thinking of it is like, I was going to title this segment "Everybody Watching Live," some behind the scenes.
Oh, you guys got a taste of behind the scenes.
So the way I was imagining this is you have the video. If this was one full video of the interviews and Nintendo Power, then it would be a long video with the title Nintendo Power Returns or whatever, something similar to that. So someone may not be interested in that, but they may be interested in like new Zelda information revealed or like whatever, like
we can
interview
split the
with
topics.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's
no problem.
That's what I was thinking, because
you're the manager, Jesse.
Right,
however you want to split these topics.
All right. So start this as if it was we have new blah 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 from Aonuma.
Let's do that. I'll start now. Okay. So we
The videos on this channel are funded by supporters on Patreon like you. If you're a fan of this channel and would like to join on videos, receive shoutouts, watch videos early, have your questions answered, or have your topic discussed on our podcast, please consider supporting on Patreon for these and many other rewards for just $1. Shoutouts for this video includes Link Use the Triforce, Rusty Caulfield, Lovable Christie, Give Time 15, Shadow to Us, Robbie Morgan, and Lunarium. I want to thank all of you for everything you have done to help support this channel.